What's up? Welcome back to the Let Go, Let God podcast. I am your host, Erika Ray, and I love filming and being able to talk to you guys. I'm going to be honest, I procrastinated this week's episode. It is Tuesday that I'm filming it, and I am launching and releasing it tomorrow, Wednesday, which at this point will already be Wednesday. But I feel like the Lord's timing is perfect. I pray about when to record and what to talk about. And so I'm excited to dive into today's topic, which is all about hosting. So, hosting guests, entertaining other people, hospitality, all the goods. And so, let's just get right into it. I want to ask a couple questions to see if any of these questions spark any type of emotion or feeling in you as I read them. So, the first question is, do you love hosting? The second question is, have you always wanted to host but never have? Third question is, does the thought of hosting completely terrify you? Fourth question, do you have zero desire to ever host? So, think about those questions. Maybe one of them you felt triggered by, or you felt very understood by, whatever it may be. Or maybe you're like, I don't know, I don't think this podcast pertains to me. Either way, I'm going to share a lot of personal experiences and hopefully some good stuff. So I hope you stick around. But no matter where each of these questions landed you, I think there's something good for you in this podcast. So I'm going to kind of get into some hospitality standard things just to kind of give you an idea of what it might look like. And then I'm going to go into my own personal experience with this because it truly transformed my life, becoming more of a hostess and just being more intentional of geez, words are hard. Being more intentional about being hospitable to people. I think that's a word. But let's start off with the definition of hospitality so that we're all on the same page here. So, the definition is the friendly and generous reception and entertainment of guests, visitors, or strangers. So, hospitality can be inviting your family over, your friends over. It can be inviting a complete stranger over. It is really however you decide to serve somebody else. That is a form of hospitality. So there's a verse I want to share. 1 Peter 4:9. Show hospitality to one another without grumbling. I think that for me personally, the thing that would trigger me about hospitality was I didn't want to be in charge. I didn't want to be in control because then if people didn't have a good time or they didn't like it, it wasn't my fault because I didn't plan it and I wasn't in control. That was my number one thing. I actually used to be such a follower in life. So, all throughout elementary school and high school, and even the greater part of college, I was such a follower, which is so wild to me that I let myself do that because now I I can't even picture that version of me. So, I would talk to my friends, see what they were doing, whatever they liked, I liked, because it goes back to that internal thought that I had of, okay, if I just follow what my friends are doing, then if something goes wrong, it's not on me, it's on them. And I could live with myself that way, which, you know, I feel like there was some wisdom in my head at that point because I just didn't want to be responsible, but when you look at it, it is such a foolish thing because we are supposed to be followers of Christ and not followers of people. And so at the time, I really thought there was some logic around it, but now looking back, I just shake my head at little Erika and I'm like, oh, you have so much to learn. So it's okay because here we are now. Everything that I've been through and everything that you have been through has gotten you to where you are today. And I always like to say, God knows what you need to go through in order to grow closer to Him. And so many challenges and things that I face in my life have made me such a better human today, and I'm grateful for them. I don't really want to experience a lot of those things again, but I'm hoping that I can help other people since I have experienced them. So let me just tell you, whatever question you answered yes or no to, I've most likely been in the same boat because I've had feelings about hosting where I was like, no way, Jose, I ain't doing that. To now being on the complete opposite end of the spectrum and absolutely loving it. And I'm not going to lie, there's still some times where I am tired. I don't want to be in charge. I just want someone else to take over. And that's okay because there's different seasons too. I think we have different seasons of life where we're really busy and maybe we don't have time to host as many things. But there's also other times where we have a lot more time. And I think God blesses us with things and we should steward those things well. And a lot of that involves hosting and hospitality. And you don't have to have the nicest things, the nicest house, the nicest snacks, all those things to have a good hosting party. And so that's something I'll get into as well. But I want to share a little story that really spoke to me when I was preparing for this message. So it's in Matthew 10:5-14. So I'm going to kind of summarize it, but if you want to go read it, it's Matthew 10:5-14. And in this passage, Jesus sends out the 12 apostles to go and minister. And verse 10, he says, "Don't carry a traveler's bag with a change of clothes and sandals or even a walking stick." And so this this verse is Jesus instructing them not to bring any extra provisions and to rely completely on the hospitality of others. And it's kind of wild to think about that because nowadays if someone was to go and do that, we're so blessed and we have so many resources out there where we can go on Amazon and order something and have it show up at our door within an hour. We have so many resources available to us that the apostles did not have back then. And so they truly, truly had to rely on other people's hospitality in order to go around from town to town and minister. And I think that there's something so beautiful about that because we have so much control over what we have and what we consume these days. And a lot of the times we can forget that God is the one providing these things for us. I really struggled with certain areas of my life that I was latching onto and trying to control so hard because it felt so tangible. But once I let them go, I realized, oh, it was never me that was in charge of all of these things. The Lord had always been providing them for me this whole entire time. And it's actually so freeing because God does tell us, I have a verse that's a post-it note on the back of my phone, but God tells us that he will provide all that we need. And so the apostles had to trust that God would provide all that they needed and literally told them to not bring anything because he wanted the hospitality to be shining. And so I wanted to share that because, yes, we live in different times nowadays, but you never know what somebody may need. And maybe they don't need a toothbrush, but maybe they need a friend to talk to, or they just need a safe space to come and be for a night. Who knows what it is? Listen to the Lord's discernment, and he can help you with that. But really, the whole point of this message is I want everybody to get more comfortable with being hospitable. Again, whether you live in an apartment, you live in a studio, you live in a house, you live in a mansion, you live with your parents, you live with your grandparents, you live with your friends' grandparents. I've been there. So, whatever it could be, whatever it may be, and also you don't always have to be hospitable in your home necessarily. You can be hospitable in other areas too, which we can get into that. So, I want to go into a little bit of my own personal story of how I came to be more hospitable. So, it goes back to 2021 and I was going to church, and I've always been the type of person to have never just one job. It was always two, three, sometimes even four part-time jobs. Truthfully, I would get bored in one job and I couldn't just go to one spot all day. So I liked to make it hard on myself. And still to this day, I have two jobs. So I like to make it hard on myself and do multiple different things. But, anyways, with that comes a lot of challenges because it's not as stable or steady as your normal job if you're going there every day, all day. But it allowed me a lot of freedom with my time and my schedule. And so I was going to church and I wanted to start kind of helping out. So I would just go to the church during the week and see what they needed and I would help them out. And I remember one day I was talking to the associate pastor and he was asking me what I like to do. And I told him I loved to hike. And at this point in my life, I was probably going on 3 hikes a week, maybe. And I would just go by myself and it was great. Nature really speaks to me. I feel like nature brought me back to God when I was in a spot where I felt kind of lost. There was a period of my life where I wasn't really going to church, and I would bring my journal and my Bible, and I would go to the top of the mountain and just have my time with the Lord. And He helped me in that season by just revealing His true beauty in nature to me. And then, after I had some time on the mountains, I was led to this church, and then it ultimately changed my life. So I just like to share that because I did go through a period where I didn't really know what to do. So I found the thing that I loved to do, which was to be in nature, and God met me right where I was at, which was really, really special. So, anyways, I had a lot of time, was volunteering at the church, and pastor asked me what I like to do. I told him hiking, and he was like, "Hey, you should start a hiking small group." And I thought to myself, I don't want to bring other people on my sacred hikes. But he was like, "Erika, you're already going. Just bring people with you on the hikes." And I thought about it and I told him, "Hey, I'll think about it." And then a couple days went by. I went back into the church and I noticed that I was getting all these emails from people saying they had signed up for my hiking group. And I was so confused because I didn't start a hiking group. And so I asked him about it. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, I signed you up to lead a hiking group." And I was so confused. I was kind of upset because I told him I wanted to think about it. But at this point, there was probably 16 or so people signed up. And he was like, "Okay, well, do you want me to cancel it?" And I'm thinking, no, all these people signed up and I don't want to let them down, even though they don't even know me. So it ended up being a blessing in disguise because I started the hiking small group. And I remember I started that in 2021. It was September of 2021. We had our first hike. There was, I believe, 3 people there. It was at 6 a.m., I think on like a Friday. So again, I had a weird schedule and I made it during the week because that's what worked for me. And people showed up. It was really cool. So we ended up hiking and conversing. And I started this thing where I would think of a question that I wanted to ask on the hike and I would ask it at the beginning. And then at the top of the mountain, we would talk about the question and then we would pray. And so that was kind of our community. So that was really cool. And I had the group from 2021 all the way until 2025, up until this year. And I actually just stopped it this year, but it was going strong for a while. And it was really cool to see the different groups of people. I had a lot of travel nurses that had come over the months, and so I got to meet them and I met my best friend through the hike. I actually met multiple of my best friends. 2 of them are going to be in my wedding, and 3 actually. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah, 3. Am I missing another one? 3 of them are going to be in my wedding. Yeah. So, start a hiking group. You might get some new best friends. So, that was really cool, but I had all these fears when I had started it because I've opened up about my health issues, but one of the things that I was really scared of as well was committing to doing something consistently every week. What if I was sick and I couldn't make it? If I'm going on these hikes by myself, I don't have to rely on anyone but me, and if I can't make it, no big deal. I'm not letting anybody down. I hated to say that I was going to do something and then not follow through. I don't like doing that. And because of my health issues, I struggled with a lot of indecisiveness and I didn't want that rubbed off on other people. It was fine if it was just me, but I didn't want other people to look at me that way. So I had all these fears and all these thoughts, but hey, I've had the group for years now, and there was not a single hike. I believe there was not a single hike that I missed because I was sick, and I had the group literally every single week. The start of this year we moved it to every other week, but it was once every single week, and I was at every single hike unless I was out of town, or if I needed to do something, I had switched it to a different day, but it was like clockwork. I had even reached a goal where I wanted to do 52 hikes in a year, and I definitely hit it. I think I went over. But that was such a blessing from the Lord, because if he calls you to something, he's going to equip you for it, and he wanted me to trust him in that moment, that I would be feeling good and that I would be able to lead the group. And honestly, a lot of the times I would get in funks in my head over maybe not feeling well or something else, and every time I would show up at the hiking group, it would always bring me out of it. And I believe whenever something is spirit led, it is truly so healing. And I feel like the hiking group really healed me in so many ways, and it was so special and so sweet, and it really changed the game for me. So that was cool. I had a lot of fears in that, and in the summertime we did take a break because it's really hot in Arizona, and I've gotten heat stroke before, or heat exhaustion, and sometimes I feel like I've never recovered from it. So I gotta be careful. And I think everyone needs to be careful. It gets really hot. You can bake cookies outside, it's that hot. So in the summer, then I switched to doing like an actual small group. So I had people come over to my house and did a lesson and chatted, and this is a whole other ball game, let me tell you, because hikes, you just show up and the mountain is there and it's prepped and it's ready for you. You just got to show up. But now people are coming over to my house, so I want to make sure it's clean. I need to make sure it works with my roommates. I need to make sure I have a snack. All the things. And, there's all these thoughts that go through your mind. Okay, do I have everything that I need? Are they going to like the muffins that I made? Is my couch comfy enough for them to sit on? Is my house clean enough? Are my roommates going to be upset that there's people over here? Which obviously that's a conversation we had before, so you want to get on the same page, but it's just all these thoughts that go through your head. And really, they can be so crippling to the point where you just say, I ain't gonna do it. I ain't gonna do it. And then having to prep a lesson every week too, and you're the host and you're leading it and guiding it. What if they don't like what you're talking about? But let me tell you, something that calms your fears down in all of these things is giving it all to God. And like I said, if God is at the center of it and he is leading you, he's going to lead you to what he wants you to talk about, to the peace that you're going to get in your home. And it gets so much easier too, because you start to host and you realize people aren't looking at every single inch of your home and critiquing everything. They're just happy to have a space to come and commune with you. And there's been times where I tell people to just bring something, and you don't always have to provide something. I remember I did go through a phase where I loved to bake muffins, and so I would always have muffins because it would be, I think it was on Friday mornings that we did it. So I did that, and coffee, which I loved to do that. But there's been times where I've gone on different diets and I have literally no food in my house except for what I'm eating. And I tell people, hey guys, straight up, I don't have any food. I'm on a diet. If you want to bring snacks, you can. I just want to let you know. And people did. People show up. They bring the party too. So it's just really cool to see what happens. Oh, I wanted to share something too because I forgot about it with the hikes. So I talked about how I didn't miss any hikes. There was one hike where I started hiking up the mountain and I was so out of breath. I did not feel good. I felt sick. I thought I was going to pass out. I had never felt that before on a hike. We barely went up the mountain. And I usually push through. Like, I push through to a point where I shouldn't be pushing through. But this time I was like, I'm going to probably have to go to the hospital if I push through. And so I could not do this hike. And the reason, I know why, it's because I had started this thing called the Lion Diet, which is you only eat beef, salt, and water. And I had been on that diet for a week. So I had zero carbs in my body, and I was trying to do this 4 mile 1,200-foot elevation gain hike or something like that. And it's not hard, but when you don't have any energy, then your body's like, please, you're killing me. So in that moment, I knew that I was not going to make it. But thankfully, I have amazing friends and an amazing fiance. And so he actually just sat with me at the bottom of the mountain on a rock. And my best friend took everybody up on the hike and she did the question with them. She did the prayer, and we always take a picture at the top. So it was just honestly even a cool hike to remember. And I remember some of my fears were like, I had new people there, and I'm like, they're gonna think I'm a weenie. I can't make this hike that I planned. But at the end of the day, it's just kind of a fun story to look back on. And I think it was such a good time, and me and Kaden had a sweet time on the rock, and Casey got to lead, and it was really cool. And so I wanted to bring that up because if you are I was super fearful of something like that happening, but it happened and it ended up not being that big of a deal. And then I was able to make it through all the other ones. And so if the Lord wants you to do it, he's going to see you through it. So I just wanted to put that plug in there. And it's cool too, because when you start building community and you start hosting, other people feed off of it and they want to help you too. And so then it's kind of a group effort of, okay, let's do this together, kind of a thing. And so that's really fun, and other people will take stuff off of your plate as well. So lots of lots of stuff about groups. I also feel like I'm talking really fast. I think I'm excited. But another thing I wanted to share about small groups too is an intimidating thing can be leading a Bible study. Now, the cool thing is there's so many different Bible studies out there. You can do videos, you can read books, you can study a book of the Bible, you can do devotions. I've done a lot of different things. Whenever I started, my church actually had a small group video Bible study. So it was really nice because I would just play that, and it had somebody giving a teaching, and then we would answer the questions together. So really, I showed up and I kind of reviewed it before, and then we all went through it together. But that was really nice as I was beginning, because it was already prepped and outlined and everything. And then now in my Bible study, we have a book that we're going through that is for the book of John. And we just answer the questions and we kind of all do it together. So it doesn't have to be this big old thing of, oh my gosh, I have to prep and plan all night for all these things. It can be such a group effort. It's just kind of taking that initiative of taking the lead and taking charge. And I've really learned to love being I don't want to say in control or in charge, even though I slightly love that. But a better word is I love to host and allow space for people to come and gather. And I just can think of so many times where not even small groups, but just little parties or game nights, just having people over. My heart is so filled, and I'm just so grateful to God every time that He gives me a space to have people over. And I've had people over in different houses before, and I am going to be moving again soon, and I don't know what that's going to look like, if I'm going to have the space that I have now to host. I'm not sure, but I know that the Lord is going to provide space, and it never has to be this big thing. I remember I was listening to a podcast, and this girl talks about how she literally made pancakes for her friends, and they had paper plates and all the things. Just it doesn't have to be anything crazy too. I think I used to be thinking like, oh, I need to make something really fancy because I need everyone to love it. And no, really, I will say 90% of the time I host people, we have tacos because that is my specialty meal. So I know I'm going to get it right every time. Tacos are so easy. You just get the meat and the toppings. And do you think anyone cares? No. Everyone loves tacos. And most of the time, they always offer to bring something too. And so I think the biggest thing you got to do is just go for it. So if you want to start hosting, then maybe start small. Have like a little dinner party and make it a potluck. So just open up your space. And if you truly don't have the space, if you don't have room in your house or it's not your house, then that's okay. You could host a potluck at a park, or even asking a friend like, "Hey, can we use your house? I'll help plan all the things." But people are always looking for community, and they want to be gathered up around other people. It's so sweet. And again, like I said, there's so many times after an event that I'm just sitting there and I'm like, man, God is so good. He just filled my house with so much joy, and that was awesome. And those are core memories in my brain. I have these memories deep in my brain of times that I've hosted. And I just can't wait, no matter where I'm at or what I'm doing. If I can't host at my house, hosting will always be a part of my life because I know how special it is and how much of a spiritual thing it is. And I always want to be able to provide that for somebody, for people. And I look forward to it all the time. And so it's exciting to think about. And I love that. I love that I have become a leader for God versus a follower of people. And it's it's truly life changing, and it's made me so much more confident. I used to be so nervous and shy, and a lot of times I would get scared to go out and do things with other people because I would get social anxiety. But when you host, you really do learn a lot of skills because you realize, oh, I do want to entertain these people. So you kind of start thinking of filler questions. I talked about this in the bonding podcast that was before this one, where if you go on a coffee date with somebody new and you don't know what to talk about and it's awkward, just have some questions on deck because you do want to be a good host. And whenever I was hosting too, I felt like I really had the upper hand of getting to know the people. So every person that walked through my door, I made it a goal to be super intentional about sitting down and just getting to know them personally. And that was also really, really cool because you never know what somebody's going through. You never know what they might need. And you never know when you might meet your future person or your future friends just because you were being obedient to the Lord. And so I do believe that hosting and hospitality is a spiritual gift, and I believe that we should all be tapping into it because it's so cool, and it opens you up to a whole new world. And start small. You don't have to do anything crazy. And if you're really, really nervous, then get somebody to do it with you because it is always a little bit less nerve wracking when you do things with a buddy. And so that could be a really cool thing to incorporate as well. So I believe that is all I have to share. I kind of just wanted to go over some biblical things and then my personal experience because hosting has truly been a pivotal part of my spiritual walk with God and my spiritual growth, and it's changed my life, and I can see the ripple effects of it in my life too with other people, and it's really cool. Oh, and another thing. I have to share this because it's so cool, but I had found out, I don't even talk to them anymore, but I found out that these two people that were in my small group, they either got married or they're getting married too. And I'm like, whoa, God, you did that in the group that you led me to lead. And it was so cool. And even though I don't have the group now, I do have a different group. And my goal for this year is to always be a part of some type of small group because I think community is so important. And I think it looks different in different seasons. And in that season of my life, that group blessed me so much. And now I do have a smaller group, but I love it and I intend on always being a part of a group. And so that was really cool. You never know what God can do. You just want to allow Him the space to be able to move and work because the things He does are so cool. They're so cool. So, yeah, that's the episode for today. I want you guys to tune in next time as well because I have not confirmed this with him yet. He doesn't really know, but I am gonna have Kaden on the next episode, and we are going to talk about basically how we started dating, and then we'll talk about our engagement story. We'll talk about some highlights and some things that we've learned. We'll probably get into some stuff too in later on episodes, but we haven't shared the story of anything. And I told you guys that one of my goals for this new season is I really want you to be a part of kind of what's going on in my life, which is why I want to share as many experiences as I can because I love hearing about what the Lord does in other people's lives and I love learning from other people. And so I thought it'd be really cool to have him on. So tune in if you want to hear about our love story and where we started, where we were at and where we're at now. And yeah, I think it's going to be a really good episode. I'm super excited. So, thank you guys once again for tuning in. If you are watching or listening, like, subscribe, share it with a friend, email me if you have any questions. I think that's it. Yeah. Okay, well, I'll see you guys next time. Have a great week.